Hello and happiest days to you folks. I hope you guys are having an absolutely amazing day today. So today on Friday, I do top 10 videos of various things that are in my genre and that sort of thing too. We started off as a channel doing reviews of older fiction that people were reading traditionally, and fantasy, science fiction, and horror too. But then when I wanted to expand the channel, I decided to do some other stuff. But recently, I decided to get back to basics and get some stuff done. So I've done my top 10 favorite authors over a few different weeks, as well as 3 back-to-back ones of my top 10 favorite novels. And now we're moving to my top 10 favorite short stories. Now, short stories are big stuff. I've read tons and tons of short stories growing up and that sort of a thing too. My favorite author when I was in college, after I encountered him as a junior, was H.P. Lovecraft, and I went and read all of his collections and that sort of a thing too, and then read like tons of Cthulhu Mythos and other horror stuff that's older too, and horror became my favorite genre. I do think that the horror short story is a better sort of teller of horror than novels typically are. So you'll typically see more of those hitting my list, but there will be some other ones too. I've also my earlier favorite genres were fantasy. I've read some fantasy short stories collections too, and then also some science fiction short stories here and there too. I'll put down a lot for you folks. All right, so let's get started with number 10. And number 10 is Leaf by Nigel. This is by J.R. Tolkien. It's from 45. I said Leaf by Nigel, the idea here is that he's trying to show how a fantasy story can work. A fantasy fairy tale can work for adults when pointed out to them and that sort of thing too. So basically, this has somebody who winds up dying. He has this unwritten artistic work, and then he goes ahead and knocks it out, and that sort of thing too. I think it's very, very self-referential. And that sort of thing too. He dies without this great artwork done, and now he dedicates himself to doing it. Number 9 is The Signalman by Charles Dickens. This is from 1866. This is, to my mind, a very, very strong Charles Dickens entry. So basically, this is a ghost story, and it's set in the train signalmans. That's who the signalman is. That sort of a thing too. I like it. I think it's good stuff. Very evocative of Charles Dickens' rich prose. And so that's number 9, The Signalman by Charles Dickens from 1866, sorry. I did an extra 8 there. Count Magnus by M.R. James from 1904 is number 8. Now, M.R. James, particularly this short story, was sort of the first in horror of this era of the antiquarians that were involved, the experts, the people who sat down and did stuff that were involved in the darker side of horror and investigations and that sort of thing too. These are the collectors of works and that sort of thing too. So what's happening here with Count Magnus? I think this is an absolute classic. In fact, H.P. Lovecraft in his collection wrote in a short story and letters about the short stories that he considered classics. And this is actually one of the ones that he defines as an early classic of weird fiction. So you check it out too. But I love it. I think it's great stuff here. I think it's fun stuff what's happening here in Count Magnus. That's sort of a thing too. So let's check it out for you folks. And then number 7 is Saki's. This is from 1910, and this is The Jesting of Arlington Stringham. So Saki, his pen name, his real name is H.H. Munro. He was writing around the time of the turn of the century in the UK. He actually has a very, very short story, sometimes maybe only like a couple of pages long. And it might not even take you like 5 minutes. It's come out with this great twist endings, many of them are in the horror genre. Just how I encountered them first. That sort of thing too. This is not that. That sort of a thing too. But basically, this is a very, 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 very fast, fun take with a satirical take on, at the time, the British Moors and that sort of a thing too. I think it's great stuff. Love it lots. I feel like he tries to be the Guy de Maupassant for the British Isles, and typically successfully. Yes, this short story shows. I love it all. Down the box for you folks. All right, so that's number 7. Number 6 is The Glamour on the Snow. It's by Algernon Blackwood. It's from 1912. I mentioned this in the last reviews, which you can check. That Algernon Blackwood had 2 big ones, and typically people saw him as having 3 major short stories. And the third one was Ancient Sorceries. I actually think it's this one. I like Ancient Sorceries. I'm not. This is my third favorite one. I buy them. And that sort of thing too. So Algernon Blackwood was a classic author, and that sort of a thing too. In having sort of an awesomeness meets a horror combination, and that sort of a thing too. I think his Willows is my favorite short story of all time period, and that sort of a thing too. Just like H.P. Lovecraft's, I think it's an absolute classic to my mind. And then also one of the great things here about this short story, and him too as an author, is that he has you'll have something that happens, and you'll be reading the scene, and you'll say, "Wow, that's just so well done, so awesome." But I just don't want it to happen to me, right? He's a classic at that. And this is an absolute classic too. This is set up in if I recall correctly, I've read it a couple of years. I think it's set up in a ski resort and that sort of a thing too, up in the mountains, where Algernon would regularly go to check out stuff, and then some darker horror stuff happens. I like a lot. So I think it's great stuff. Now top 5 time. Number 5 is H.G. Wells's Empire of the Ants from 1909. This has a fun little flavor to it, and that sort of a thing happening. I enjoy the central concept of ants evolving and having some great stuff here. Love it lots. And becoming more and more humanoid in some of their things. It's actually turned into a movie that I watched too. I think it's good stuff. Love it lots. And I think the idea is here too. And that's number 5. Now, number 4 is Carl Jacobi's The Aquarium. It's from 1962. Now, this was written by Carl Jacobi. It was submitted to Arkham Press, which were the publishers of the Cthulhu Mythos at the time, by August Derleth. Now, August Derleth was a protege of Lovecraft, and he had some different ideas in some ways of Lovecraft's things. He has more of an elemental interpretation. He thinks that Cthulhu is a water being and that sort of thing too, right? All up in a box. And that sort of thing too. And so while he was writing, Carl Jacobi submitted this short story to him. And thought, and it has a different interpretation from the Cthulhu Mythos than Derleth did. And so Derleth had I'm not sure if he had him strip it out or if he just stripped it out himself before publishing it. I've read both versions and they're great. But basically, here's what's happening. A cheap mansion in a nice place in the city in the British, I think it's in London proper, but it might be one of its suburbs, has an aquarium that comes with it. But it's absolutely downright cheap. And so somebody moves it. So that's the setup. Love it. Lots of things. Great stuff. That's the number 4. Carl Jacobi's Aquarium from 1962. Now the top 3 time. Number 3 is The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. It's my second favorite Guy de Maupassant story. It's very, very fast. It's from 1984. And that sort of a thing too. I think it's an absolute classic. Super fast. I love it lots. I think it's got a great twist ending too. Right, now number 2 is Arthur Machen's The Novel of the Black Seal. This is from 1895 when he publishes a collection called The Three Impostors that include this and a few other novels. The novel of the White Powder is also very, very good too. And that sort of thing too. But basically what's happening here with Arthur Machen. Arthur Machen was definitely somebody who put the idea of cosmic horror on the map in a major way. He's from I think he's from the British Isles. I think he might actually be from Wales. I'm not 100% sure. But basically, he's somebody who has a lot of great writing and that sort of thing too. Great descriptions, great horror that combines it with a cosmic style. Things like The Great God Pan that hit earlier. I think this is a classic novel. It's called a novel, but it's actually a short story. That sort of a thing too. But it's longer. It will take some of your time. But the creepiness that happens here, the horror elements that happen here, that's an absolute strong stuff in my case. All right, and that's the number 2 short story. Now number 1, is Edgar Allan Poe's The Tale Heart from 43 of 1843. Not 1943. That's a long time ago. That's very recent for Edgar Allan Poe. So that's The Telltale Heart. I read it when I was a kid, and I think it was in junior high. Loved it. Thought it was great stuff. Love it lots. And I remember studying some words that it taught me, like countenance and that sort of thing too. I think it's an absolute classic. I love it lots. And I think the twist ending is more psychological horror, but I think it's great stuff too. Love it lots. So here's my top 10 once again for you folks. Number 10 is Leaf by Niggle by J.R. Tolkien from 45. Number 9 is The Signalman by Dickens. Number 8 is Count Magnus by A.M.R. James. Sorry, I dropped the phone. Number 7 is Sakis's The Jesting of Arlington Stringham. Number 6 is The Glamour on the Snow by Algernon Blackwood. Top 5 time. Number 5 is H.G. Wells's Empire of the Ants. Number 4 is The Aquarium by Carl Jacobi. And then 3 is The Necklace by Guy de Maupassant. Number 2 is Arthur Markins' novel of the Black Sea. And then number 1 is The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. For you folks, have you read those 10 short stories? Would those be your top 50 overall? What would be yours? If you put them in this order, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Remember, I'm not a trained writer, right? I'm not or a critic either. I don't read. I didn't even study English in college either. Right, so I'm not really somebody who comes to you from a place of expertise, right? So that means your opinion really is as important as mine. So I'm happy to sort of engage with it further in the comments below. And if you would, please try to keep these spoiler-free, as that is. I'll try to do some other reviews of these older things too. I got some. I'm doing short stories or stuff like that too that you're reading. These older of 3 of these things a week for you folks, in addition to the top 10. So you can go check out a lot of these. And in fact, a lot of these are available for free right now, since they're older stuff. Before that, the copyright date ended about 95 years ago. And then you can also, if you're interested, you can check out this rest of this stuff coming forward. I got more of these coming. And then on Wednesday, I do older video game reviews. I just did Star Control Origin, so you can check that out too. And then also, I'll probably be doing some other stuff like I do as well, some Let's Plays of older video games too. On Monday, I do reviews of older tabletop RPGs or war games like Dungeons & Dragons or Battletech, so you can check out that stuff too. Right now I'm doing the X series. And then on Saturday, something I call Serial Saturday, which is dedicated to the forgotten storytelling genres of movie and TV serials, like Dick Tracy's serials or Flash Gordon, Spider's Web, stuff like that. So you can check that stuff out too. Alrighty, and I hope those 7 things, like a week and from this on to those reviews, sound like your cup of tea. And if they do, then great, welcome to the channel. And while you're here, please do all the YouTube stuff, like hit the subscribe button, like button, the icon, all that stuff too. And all the note box. As you can tell from those 7 older reviews, it's the passion of this channel. Finally, for you folks, it's even where its name comes from. The worst thing about new books, it's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, who says that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? Not that the new stuff is bad by default, right? But we are standing on the shoulders of giants. And our passion for that new stuff, we sometimes have forgotten that, right? So let's check out those giants. Alrighty for you folks, and there you go. And as you can tell from those, and I want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video, because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? And we're pulled in so many different directions too, right? So like you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. And I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.